Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast.
We still got a few more football things to get to with Nick Caserio, and we got some fun stuff to mix in as well. We will do it within the format of a segment that I know Nick Caserio is fond of, called Acknowledge Me. We will, I will say a person's name or maybe the name of a, person, place, or thing, a noun. Ben, you got the hotkey ready? We will play Acknowledge Me. So I'm going to start off. We'll get to some football, but I want to start off. I should have led into the show with this because this was making the rounds on the interwebs yesterday. But Nick Caserio's golf swing.
Acknowledge me.
Yeah.
Man, smooth as silk. You were playing in the Pro-Am yesterday for the live event that's here, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So they had reached out to see if, I'd be interested in doing that. And it kind of the way it matched up. So we finished up on the field. Our last practice was Wednesday. Yesterday was a little bit of a cleanup day. We actually had a kind of a team family barbecue, so I missed that. But honestly, it was something I've never done before. I've never played in a Pro-Am, so they reached out, and I thought to myself, oh, wow, this might be an interesting opportunity.
Check a box.
Had a lot of fun with it. So the golf was, we played with Thomas Peters for the first 9 and then played with Bryson on the next 9.
Yeah.
So Bryson was awesome.
Was he?
He was awesome. He really was. Very insightful, really good perspective. Just the way those guys hit the golf ball, like everybody plays golf, they're playing a different sport.
Yeah,
and it just gives you an appreciation when you see it up close.
Do you feel like did it improve your game just by osmosis, being in that environment? That's it. I used to run with the defensive backs, so I actually felt like I got a little bit faster.
Yeah.
I need more practice in order to improve my golf, which hopefully I'll get over the summer.
How many times a year do you play golf?
So during, call it August till May, I'll play at the foundation event. That's about the extent of it. So like once a year, and then maybe work in another round or 2 before I leave. And then over the summer, I'll play maybe 8 to 10 times. So just go out, play, enough. I mean, that's basically my fix. And then once football starts, the clubs go away, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I love the sport. I love playing, but
you were a college quarterback. Have you run into a quarterback who isn't like a pretty good golfer or like a passable golfer?
Yeah, me.
Especially in the NFL. Like, who's the worst NFL golfer as a quarterback?
No, they're usually pretty good.
Has CJ played golf yet?
I think he's taking it up. I think he's taking it up. So we'll see. All right, let's do a couple football ones here. John Metchie.
Acknowledge me.
Metch has been getting a lot of good reports, both from CJ and then from what we saw out at OTAs and minicamp. It looks like he's really taking his explosiveness up another notch.
Yeah, a little bit like KG. This has really been his first opportunity to train for football and not rehab or worry about some other things.
Yeah.
So I think you're starting to see his confidence grow a little bit. So, that room is going to be a pretty competitive room here in training camp, no question about it. We're probably going to have to move on from a pretty good player. We don't really know who that is at this point, but we have, they're all kind of different. They're all going to kind of fill different roles, but credit to John and the work that he's done. Can't say enough great things about him as a person, but he's done a good job on the football field, which is a credit to him.
We've been talking about him this offseason as he shows up at various CJ Stroud workouts, that it reminds me of Julian Edelman, how Julian Edelman kind of stalked Tom Brady in the offseason, went and lived close to where he was living so he could be there for workouts. I feel like Metchie's got that
Good job,
part of it
Metch.
figured out. Yeah.
They spent a lot of time out there in California.
Yeah.
Tank was out there, Metch was out there, Steph went out there, I think, for a little bit at different points. So, he's worked really hard and tried to put himself in a position where he can make a contribution to the team, no question.
All right, we've gone through this whole conversation and have not acknowledged Stefan Diggs yet.
Acknowledge me!
Because I feel like all the questions have been asked about the behind-the-scenes stuff with Steph. You've addressed it. D'Amico's addressed it. Steph himself addressed it the other day. I guess just give us the perspective. His teammates have, at times unprompted, been talking about what a good teammate he's been since he's been in the building. What have you seen since he's been in the building?
Yeah, the way he works. You heard this out of Buffalo, just his competitiveness and his work ethic, like when he's on the field. I think when you have really good players, CJ's like this, they're competitive, and they care about winning, and it's about the work, and every time they go on the field, it's very purposeful. But he's been great. And I think the one thing that when you see him up close, and obviously when you watch him play, he's been a good run-after-catch player, and he's not necessarily, quote-unquote, the biggest guy. He's 6 foot, 90 pounds. But when you get up on him and, around his shoulders, this guy is rocked up.
Yeah.
So you can see why people bounce off of him. So there's a reason why he's been, a good run-after-catch player over the course of his career.
You wouldn't do this with Stefan Diggs, but I always wanted this for Andre Johnson. why can't you just put those guys out there as an edge pass rusher? Like once a game every now, like third and really, really long. I don't know how many offensive tackles could handle Andre Johnson lined up in a wide nine. And they've got the hand fighting techniques, from handling press coverage.
It's funny you bring that up. So I'm going to go back into the archives here. So Kyle Arrington, who played corner for us, New England undrafted player, was kind of an inside the formation player. He was fast as hell, and he was tough. So we actually put him in a position a couple of times where we had a package where he actually was running off the edge with his speed. Again, you're not going to do that all the time.
Right.
It was, I can't remember if we were forced to do it or what have you. But
did he have any success? If he was thrown into it, it's
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it was kind of like, wow, we're really doing that? Okay.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. Will Anderson Jr.
Acknowledge me.
How many seconds did it take for you to fall in love with Will Anderson the first time that you met him, Nick?
Yeah, he was actually our first pre-draft visit in 23, and he was here by himself. And you hear a lot of things, obviously, when you go in the program, Alabama, everybody speaks very highly of him, and then you see him up close. And I think what you learn who these people are, like what makes them tick, their personalities, and when everybody kind of going back to like Stover and CJ and these different players, when everybody arrives at the same endpoint, it sort of resonates and it really confirms everything that you think. So, Will, he's about work, he's about football, and he wants to be great. And there's plenty of things, and I think he talked the other day about this. Some of the things that he's working on in the off season. And you're actually seeing that on the football field translate over. So, everything that those players have received, they've earned it, with their performance. And, can't say enough. D'Amico's talked about Will. Everybody's talked about Will. Will doesn't really like to talk about himself. And there's a selfless nature to him. So, CJ's that way as well. When your best players have that mindset, it sort of trickles down to the rest of the team.
That draft, so you had 2 and you had 12 in that draft as far as picks go. And obviously you wind up with both guys. But when you're sitting at 2 and you're talking to C.J. Stroud and you're talking to Will Anderson, if it's just 2, then you can only get one of those guys. They're not lasting that long. At what point during that whole process, after you kind of met with both guys, and obviously there's other guys in the mix too and whatnot, but at what point are you and D'Amico talking like, we got to get both of these guys,
Yeah, no, as we worked through the spring, it was kind of like, well, look, if we have an opportunity to get both these players on a team, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And the further we went down the road, at some point we said, all right, if we have a chance, let's do it. What's there to wait for?
Yeah.
I wonder with defensive line, I don't know, Nick, maybe this is just my perspective on it. It feels like in the last 10 years or so, the level of precision and coaching defensive line as pass rushers and everything, people are talking about shin angle now and all this different stuff that's just I'd never seen a ghost rush in my life until Von Miller started doing it. Is it a different world now? And does that give you, maybe when you look at a guy like Will Anderson who transitioned into a defensive end in college, do you feel like, okay, we can project him out and put some polish there that maybe 10 or 20 years ago you didn't talk about?
No, that's what you have to do, and you have to rely on your coaching and trust your coaches what they're teaching. And pass rushing, as you know, it's very nuanced. So you can't just have one move. You have to have a repertoire and a toolbox, and you have to develop it over time. So that takes coaching, and the players honestly help each other. There's all these different summits now, right? Kittle's got his summit. Von's got his summit. So, and they learn from one another.
And YouTube,
so,
got kids see it on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, and there's pass rushing is very nuanced. Honestly, Latu, the kid that the Colts took, is one of the a more nuanced, advanced rushers for this stage. When you hear him talk about pass rush technique, you're like, whoa. It was really impressive. He's a good football player. He's going to help the Colts. There's no question about it.
When it comes to technique, like a martial artist.
Yeah.
He really. It looks like you're watching a kung fu movie. He's so slippery with his technique.
Pass rush in the end is all hand fighting.
Yeah.
It's about hand-to-hand combat, and then can you train your lower body? Everything starts from the bottom up. It's ground-based, and then you put the hand-to-hand combat in there. So the players that can perfect that, look at TJ, the way he rushes. Is he the quote-unquote player off the edge? Not necessarily. But he's a damn good pass rusher because of the way he contorts his body, the way he uses his hands, his length, his ability to get to the quarterback. pass rush is an art, and it's definitely it's about technique.
Well, yeah, and you can see, because Will played like in a lot of 4-eye and 5 techniques.
He looked like a frog in a stance sometimes.
When
like
he in college, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, because that's what they had to read and react and everything. Where the thing that was encouraging to me about him was that when he was on the inside, his hands are lightning quick. But you could see at the beginning of the season, it's a choreography, to get your hands and your feet to work together and everything. And it seemed like he made a lot of progress during last season in getting his hands and feet to work together and understand that you can use your hands, but it's a little different when you're on the outside.
No question. And you're learning a different front structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our attack front, the attack front, a lot of teams are using this front. So the way you're positioned, the angle of attack, and then to your point, Seth, coordinating your feet with your hands, that takes a lot of work, no question.
All right, nerd alert here. Cody Rhodes.
Acknowledge me!
All right, so Cody's the champ now.
He's
We
a
finished
nerd?
the story. No, Nick and I are about to nerd out here for a second.
I'm going to tell him you called
Seth's
him a nerd.
about to leave the studio.
Cody is a little nerdy, actually, but in a good way. So Cody Rhodes finished the story. Do you miss Roman Reigns at all now that he's been out for this little hiatus here? I'm kind of anxious for him to get back and teach Cody the what for here. Or The Rock.
I think when anytime one of these guys leaves and then comes back, there's an appetite and there's a positive response. So I think when Roman shows back up, I think people will be excited for him. Will they be excited is when The Rock or The Undertaker pops in out of nowhere? Or I would say going back to statues, I can't believe we're going to talk about this, but when Sting came back to WWE and Monday night and Rollins was receiving this award from Triple H and Stephanie, and then they unveiled it and it was Sting.
It was the actual
statue
Sting.
was Sting.
It was
Oh,
Sting.
okay.
So you like that. Okay, yeah. That's a good angle.
Have you been to an event lately, live?
Not lately, no. It's been a while.
You should.
It's been a while.
Okay, if you go to one and you get like a nice ringside seat or something, are you going to go in all in on it, or are you?
I'll probably
are you gonna have
stay
to be
behind the
reserved
scenes.
Oh, no, man. Nobody's going to judge
I'm
you
not
for
going
it.
to pull
They'll
a
love you for it.
I'm not going to pull a McAfee.
Nick, I went with Sean.
AEW.
And who brought
Wallace.
us?
Yeah,
Wallace brought us. And it's like I'd never been a wrestling fan or anything, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to go all in on this. And it was awesome. Like when I just committed to it.
Oh yeah.
And like I just
ringside, Seth standing over guys while they're up against the rail, like cheering them on, like get back in.
You
there,
would be
buddy.
perfect in the ring.
Yeah,
no question. You would be perfect.
You'd have been good at
all
it.
except for my body falling apart immediately.
Nah, they worked around it. It's scripted. You work around people's deficiencies. It's all good.
Honestly, I got an appreciation for them as actors.
Yeah.
Because like when you see their faces and everything, like you start to feel like I felt bad for them when they were injured.
All right, I got an avenue into creative with WWE. We may have to reprise the Sting unveiling. I love that you remember that.
You got to do it, and you just got to be. You got to go Gronk on this.
Yeah,
you got to just be all in on it.
Behind McAfee right there, So we're like, so the whole show, we're like, hey, it's Nick.
You know the problem is Nick's got to fear the GIF.
I weigh 170 pounds. I look like Rey Mysterio.
If the Texans ever lose a game again, they'll have all the gifs of you out there. And
Get me. All right, so we got our WWE. Jim Rome Smackoff.
Acknowledge me!
Thank you for acknowledging me on the show the other day, Nick. When you were on with Jim Rome, you go on with Jim quite a bit.
We've been on, I think we went on in January.
Yeah.
We went on kind of before the draft, and I think we went on most recently just with the launch, the X launch.
Well,
so
and you with Jim, Jim launching his show
it's
on
tremendous.
X.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been awesome.
I heard you call in one time though, like recently. Like now you weren't Nick Caserio, you were Nick from Houston, basically.
Yeah, I was. It was actually the combine. I was coming back.
That's
from
what it was.
I was sitting in the airport.
You're at the airport,
and then my brother texted me. He was like, "Hey, so and so said something on Rome." So then I flipped it on my phone. I'm listening. It was Jeff and Richmond called in. So then I called into the beef, and Jim got a big kick out of that.
He loves that.
So love Jim. Jim. I told him we were going to do a tandem call for the Smack.
You did?
So that probably would. I told him we wouldn't. That'd be inappropriate. You're a much better caller than I am.
No, that'd be fun though.
You could talk more smack.
That would score me extra points. I've kind of leveled off. Like I'm kind of the old guy, like Ric Flair at the end. I'm just the old guy there to put the young guys over. So
for those of you who don't know, Sean was a 5-time Smack Off Award winner.
The Jim Rome
He was the
show.
best.
Sean has a
Smack
lot of
Off
straps. Yes.
Yeah, I do. I like this one right here in front of me. Yeah. So but I've been invited back the last few years. So but I've kind of leveled off at like 5th.
Well,
I might need you
plus though, but they never. because you're professional now, they're never gonna make you the winner.
Yeah,
you could have the best. You could
grade on
win.
a curve. You get
Yeah.
graded on
You're
a
like
curve.
the one thing that could put me over is if I bring Nick doesn't even need to be good. I just need to bring you in, just period. Maybe I don't know.
The guy that won it, like, put basically a costume on in a bar
In a
last
bar
year
up
in
in
Wisconsin.
Green
So
Bay.
you can't compete with that.
I can't. No, not at all. Not at all. Maybe we could do it. Like, I'll unveil you on like Sting.
Maybe I'll dress as Toro. Maybe that would-
And I'll pull the mask off. That would be great. That would be great. Nick, we have kept you way too long, man. We appreciate you coming in studio, dude.
No, I appreciate you, fellas. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to early training camp this year,
Yeah,
man.
definitely. We'll be ready. We'll be ready.
And we need. We're eagerly anticipating what the motivational T-shirt is.
Yes.
There's D'Amico's made me love them again. Yeah.
Like I got mine right here.
He'll come up with a good slogan over the summer, I'm sure.
God Country Swarm.
It's a
I'll
lot
let
of
him
pressure.
have that.
It's a lot of pressure on him now because he's been good with the slogans.
He's a head coach / marketing. Absolutely. Hey, Nick, we appreciate it, man.
Thanks, fellas.
Good
Good
stuff. Nick Caserio, Executive Vice President and GM of the Texans, in studio. And, of course, you can get all your Texans games and coverage here on Sports Radio 610. Up next, we'll recap some of what Nick had to say and some of the more interesting things